do you mind if we interrupt the interview for just a moment? Because I think we have a very special message. I think you're going to recognize who this is.
Miss Thorne, I couldn't be happier than to be seeing you bring Riri Williams to life. Anyway, I don't want to step on your interview. Long story short, Iron Man loves Ironheart.
Moon Knight.
Put another gay diverse woman in it, make it more fucking lame! Put a chick in it, make her gay! Put a chick in it and make it fucking gay as fuck.
Excuse me. Hello. That's my hammer you've got there.
Maybe we should go a different route than we did with Indiana Jones.
Fuck Indiana Jones, put a chick in it and make her lame and gay!
The superhero genre in entertainment is on a motorcycle speeding towards the edge of a cliff. Both DC Studios and Marvel Studios have prepped their parachute on their backs, with Marvel's being Fantastic Four and DC's being Superman. While DC is working at marketing Superman in a way that'll attract fans so that their parachute saves them from their fall off the cliff, Marvel decided to release the 6-episode series Ironheart, which is the equivalent of dumping gasoline onto a parachute and lighting it on fire, and hoping that it will still catch you from falling.
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for him.
Marvel Studios' Ironheart follows Riri Williams, played by Dominique Thorne, as she tries to carry on the legacy of Tony Stark. Ironheart is a character introduced in Marvel Comics around 2015 and 2016 during the all-new, all-different Marvel era. Riri Williams is a 15-year-old super genius who is able to create absolutely anything she puts her mind to and decides to make a ripoff of Tony Stark's Iron Man armor. In the comic books, Riri Williams works alongside an AI Tony Stark model to fight off bad guys and be great at everything, because that's how all new, all different Marvel goes. The comics in and of themselves are terrible, as Riri Williams gets introduced in Invincible Iron Man issue 1 from 2016. After her run in Invincible Iron Man, Ironheart would be upgraded to her own individual comic, receiving Ironheart issue 1. Ironheart was so popular, in the words of Ryan Coogler, when he remembers the buzz,
when Ironheart came out, I remember the buzz around the industry. I was really excited
that it was canceled after 12 issues and is one of the worst selling comics of all time. So, Marvel Studios, about 3 years ago, decided what's the best thing that they can do? Well, they could take a character that failed in the comics and a concept that failed in the comics and try to replicate it on a TV show, just like everything they've been producing over the last few years.
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for him.
Okay, this show is trash. There's no great way to say this. Marvel knows it's trash. There's a reason that this has been done for multiple years, and they've decided to just dump it all across a 2-week span. So we got 3 episodes this week and 3 episodes next week. There's nothing compelling about this story. There's not much of a story right now. I watched all 3 episodes back to back to back, and I can say that there is nothing that hooks you in at all. There right now really isn't an overwhelming story. At least there wasn't through the first 2.5 episodes. And right at the end of episode 3, it seems like we get the plot of the actual show starting to come into effect. The only problem is that is halfway through the entirety of the whole show. So What is Ironheart even about? Well, that's a great question. So Riri Williams in episode 1 is at MIT because she's a super genius, and she started at 15 years old. But Riri gets caught selling her inventions to different students to help them get good grades on assignments. Riri Williams is shocked to find out that she's getting expelled for plagiarism because apparently the smartest person in the world couldn't hit a basic Google search to figure out that MIT punishes plagiarism with a chance of expulsion. Riri Williams also gives a great line that ties together the essence of this show, where she asks, "Do you really think Tony Stark could have been Iron Man if he wasn't a billionaire?" Now, I don't think I need to answer this question, and I really don't, because Marvel answered it themselves back in 2008, in case you forgot.
Tony Stark was able to build this in a cave with a box of scraps.
What made Tony Stark Iron Man was seeing the flaws behind his inventions and trying to rectify that. And when he was in the cave with nothing but the material he was given, which was essentially trash, he managed to build a suit of armor. Now, you probably don't need me to tell you the whole story of Iron Man from 2008. In fact, you should just go rewatch it instead of watching this show, because it is immensely better in almost every aspect. I say almost. It's better in every aspect. I don't need to say almost. This show is straight up garbage. So, since Riri is expelled, she decides the best thing she can do is steal a suit of armor from MIT, because somehow it's rightfully hers, even though she bought it and paid for the parts using money that was given to the school. But it's rightfully hers because, she earned it. With her stolen suit of armor and not working AI, Riri flies back to Chicago, where she crashes and has to walk back home. Riri now needs funding to buy parts for her suit, and when she's dumpster diving in the back of an old technology shop, she is noticed by the crew of Parker, who is played by Anthony Ramos. Parker is portraying the race-swapped version of the villain The Hood from Marvel Comics. Now, while I'm not a big fan of race-swapping characters in general, I don't actually think it's too much of a detriment on this character. I think Anthony Ramos as The Hood is probably the best part of this horrible show. He is kind of a nice palate cleanser of a scene when you're swapping back from one of the horrible scenes from Riri Williams to one of his scenes, but overall still not a great character, but the most compelling part of the show for sure. Now, why is she recruited? Because they are a gang of criminals and they need a super smart hacker and Iron Man suit to help them do their crimes. The crew that the Hood uses to complete his crimes is quite the incredible task force. His muscle is 2 muscular women, because that's apparently all he could get. But no, they were in underground fights, so they know how to take down men that are 3 times their size, don't you worry. The Hood's crew also has his cousin John, who is an expert knife fighter of some kind. He works as another form of muscle for the crew. Then they are joined by Clown, who does something, and then also, of course, Riri Williams with the suit of armor. Now, the weirdest character in this show goes by the name of Slug, who is a drag queen, drag actor. I don't know the terminology, but he always makes sure to get his nails done and have his makeup looking real good before every heist. So that's great. Really, really respect that out of Slug. Always got to look good when committing massive felonies. So the big plan from the Hood's crew is that they're going to trap CEOs who are rich, evil businessmen because they have money that they earned. They're going to trap them in rooms and make them sign contracts to give the criminals some equity in their company and get paid a lot of money for some reason. It's not a really well thought out plan. It's kind of stupid. It doesn't make sense. Much like this show, ironically. And they decide that they need Riri Williams' suit of armor in order to make this happen. So that's why she is recruited into the Hood's crew. But there's something fishy about the Hood. We don't know what yet, unless you look at anything and you know that Mephisto is behind whatever is wrong with him. But I'm getting a little ahead of myself. Before all of this happens, Riri Williams has to power up her suit, which she does, and creates an artificial intelligence using a scan of her own brain. But when she fell asleep during the brain scan, she was thinking about her friend Natalie, who was killed in a drive-by shooting along with her stepdad Gary. So, the artificial intelligence that forms is a recreation of her friend Natalie. Now, this is a massive step down from the comic books where the AI she is working with is Tony Stark, but something tells me they probably didn't even bother asking Robert Downey Jr. to be in the show. And if they did, they would have probably had to pay him even more than he's getting paid for Avengers Doomsday, because he would have taken one look at this script and said, "What? You this?" Then they would have just had to shell out the cash, and he probably would have gone, "You know what? Hold up, $75 million? This Ironheart stuff may not be too bad." Episode 2, it all blends together. I'm going to be honest, this show is so terrible that you kind of can't keep them apart. As a part of episode 2 is the first heist / hostile company takeover, because that's the whole plan, is to have the contract signed. It doesn't make a lot of sense. There's not a lot of logic in it. But in order to do all that, Riri Williams needs to get some part, so she goes to visit this guy named Joe, who she finds on the black market. Joe is played by the unfortunate Alden Ehrenreich, and I'm not saying unfortunate because he's a bad actor. I actually think he's alright in most things he's in. I'm saying unfortunate because Disney completely decimated the man's career by having him play Han Solo in the film Solo. Now, Alden Ehrenreich, as we go on to learn in episode 3, is actually the son of the villain from the first Iron Man movie, Obadiah Stane. They go to his lab, and he's got all kinds of illegal weapons in there, and Riri takes the part, and Joe asks her why she decided to build the suit if not to help people. And Riri Williams responds with, "Because I could." How about that for a superhero? Episode 2 culminates in the big heist. Riri Williams does some quick thinking on her feet and saves the whole heist. The Hood's crew breaks into some kind of control room, and there are a whole bunch of security guards in there who don't have guns. They're supposedly guarding some super highly advanced public transportation thing, and no one has a firearm. They just stand there like, what am I gonna do? This guy broke in and he's throwing knives. Maybe shoot him. Maybe have a gun. What are you doing? What kind of security guard are you? So they don't have guns. Riri Williams, after saving this whole heist, comes up back out of the ground and finds the one security guard who does have a gun. Then her AI Natalie has some AI trauma, some kind of panic attack, even though she's an artificial intelligence, because remember, Natalie was killed by a gun. So when she sees a gun, she freezes. The Hood appears over her, shoots, and we see his power involves bending a bullet as he hits the security guard in the arm. Riri freaks out because somebody almost died, which maybe you should have thought of that before taking part in a massive heist that was worth millions of dollars worth of stuff. You probably should assume, hey, maybe these guys could potentially kill somebody. Now, episode 3 opens, they're sitting there flaunting their cash that they stole, and Riri makes lots of mentions of how she's not a bad person, she just needs the money, which is so cool, man. Yeah, you're heroic. Now, Slug, remember that is the dude, woman, drag queen, hacker person, lays out the plan for the next heist, which involves some kind of advanced greenhouse plant growing guy, but he's putting farmers out of business, so he's a bad dude. Clown, the character who exists for some reason, steals the Hood's hood out of a vault, and then Cousin John comes in and like slams her head into a table and says like, "No, you can't touch that. Don't do all that. That's not cool." The big twist of the heist is that they can't bring any kind of metal objects in or foreign material because the greenhouses will shut down and the whole facility will go into some kind of lockdown. Riri Williams decides, after finding out that the person whose job she took was killed, that she needs to get ahead of the Hood so she can stop him. So she needs to collect a piece of it so she can test it to figure out where his powers come from. She has Natalie fly the Ironheart armor around while she dives into the water and scubas into a vault, where she then cuts off a piece of the Hood's cloak using her laser thing, but she used it for too long and the facility shut down. Smartest person alive, they say. The greenhouses start pumping CO2 gas into them, which causes the whole crew to be in jeopardy. Riri gets caught sneaking out of the facility by the cousin, and he starts threatening her. He's going to kill her, so he goes at her with a knife, and Riri manages to fight him off because she's a strong, independent woman. And then they begin to suffocate. Riri Williams gets saved from the lab, and she leaves the Hood's cousin to suffocate and die. The ending, we get to hear some of Mephisto with the Hood talking to himself. We still haven't seen Mephisto, so there are 3 whole episodes to introduce a super complex villain. So great work on that, Marvel. This show sucks. So far, the first 3 episodes, I would say it's worse than Captain America Brave New World, which is a pretty big accomplishment. Captain America Brave New World is the worst thing I've ever seen. and this manages to top that, which is pretty cool. That's pretty solid work. And I will say, one of the things that makes Riri Williams such an uninteresting and kind of bad character in this show is that she doesn't really have flaws. So she doesn't really go through much, and she is constantly getting praised or like told how amazing she is.
I heard Riri Williams was a genius, waiting to be acknowledged for your greatness.
She's constantly getting told that she is amazing and she can do anything and she's the greatest. They don't seem like a human that's relatable. It seems more like seems like they're some kind of godlike figure that can't be attained because they were just born that way and they're just better than you, and you just have to find a way to deal with it. As a whole, these first 3 episodes are just rough to get through. I would not recommend watching them. If you do decide to watch them, do yourself a favor and download the Disney Plus Speed Enhancer and extension on the Chrome Web Store. It allows you to watch the show in like a 2.0 speed or a 1.75 speed. Makes the show go by a lot faster. But yeah, instead, like, do something better with your life than watch this show. It's just a massive waste of time. This show's been done for a couple years, and Marvel only released it because they were going to have to pay more out in like contract violations than if they would just release the show. It's not good. The only thing I can take away is like the CGI is not distractingly bad, which is pretty impressive for Marvel at this point in time, where every project they've been making recently, the CGI has straight up sucked. But this is really bad for them because Fantastic Four is almost like their last chance at trying to course correct with this superhero downtrend. It's not looking good because Ironheart is so bad. And if that's supposed to be the tone setter for what Fantastic Four is going to be, I can only imagine how rough that movie might be to get through. I can't imagine it's going to be this bad, but it's not looking like it's going to be great. If you sat here and listened to this ramble about the show of Ironheart, thank you. Do not watch this show. It's horrible. And yeah, thank you for watching.